The diner door slams hard enough to rattle the glass, and a blade of winter wind shoves snow across the tile like smoke. Every head snaps up. A German shepherd enters first. Big and steady, leash slack, posture calm, eyes tracking the room without a sound. Behind him steps a broad-shouldered man in a worn navy jacket, boots dripping meltwater, face closed off like he has not slept in weeks. A waitress freezes mid-step. A tray slips from her hands and crashes. Phones rise instantly. Someone hisses health code. Another voice says, "Get that animal out." The dog sits the moment the man gives a small hand signal, perfect discipline, ignoring the shouting, the cameras, the fingers snapping inches from his muzzle. The man orders coffee like this is any other night, voice low and even. Outside, a siren wails past, and the storm warning on the television flashes again, telling anyone on the road to get off it now. A teenager leans in closer to film, baiting for a reaction. The shepherd does not move. He only watches. Then a uniformed deputy pushes through the crowd and points at the door. "No animals. Out. Now." The man's eyes narrow. The dog's ears lift at one silent command. What happens when the deputy reaches for the leash and the whole diner is recording? Comment what you would do, and follow brave canine stories for what comes next. Marcus Hale chooses the booth with his back to the wall without looking like he chose it. The move is casual to anyone watching, just a tired traveler sliding into the nearest seat. But his eyes have already mapped the room before he even sits. Chrome napkin holders, the curved metal edge of the coffee machine, the reflection in a polished pie display. Every surface becomes a mirror. He does not stare at people directly. He studies angles, doors, distances. The front entrance, the narrow hallway to the restrooms, the swinging kitchen door that does not quite close all the way. 2 exits. One blind corner near the jukebox. One ceiling camera pointed slightly too high to be useful. Rex slides under the table at a soft down command, body folding neatly, tail tucked close, breathing slow. To anyone glancing over, he looks like a large dog resting. To Marcus, every small shift of Rex's ears is information. The dog is calm but not relaxed. There is a difference. His head is low, but his eyes are open, tracking feet that pass too close, noting shoes that hesitate, steps that change direction. The diner smells of coffee and frying oil, but beneath it Marcus catches cold air every time the door opens. Snow blows in with each arrival, melting into thin puddles that spread across the floor. The storm outside is building, and the television above the counter repeats the same warning in a flat voice. Roads closing. Visibility dropping. Stay where you are. The message loops so often it becomes background noise, but Marcus notices how often the staff glance up at it. Not annoyed. Worried. Near the register, a man in a gray jacket checks his phone again. Thumb scrolling, then stopping. Eyes lifting to the door, back to the screen. The rhythm repeats. It is not boredom. It is anticipation. Marcus does not stare, but he shifts his coffee cup slightly, using its dark surface as another reflection. The man's jaw is tight. He is not eating. He is waiting. Rex's ears flick once. Marcus gives a quiet stay under his breath, barely moving his lips. The dog's body settles even lower. Discipline overriding curiosity. A waitress passes their table with forced cheer, her smile thin, eyes flicking to Rex, and then away too quickly. The tray in her hands trembles just enough for Marcus to notice. Not fear of a dog. Fear of something else redirected. Murmurs begin to build behind them. Low voices. Not angry, just uneasy. The manager steps out from the back office, wiping his hands on a towel that is already clean. He looks at Marcus, then at the deputy near the door. Then back again. The hesitation is subtle but heavy. The deputy is not escorting them out. He is lingering, pretending to check his radio, gaze drifting toward the windows every few seconds. Waiting, just like the man at the register. Marcus lifts his cup, pretending to sip, using the motion to scan the room again. No one meets his eyes for long. Conversations start and stop without finishing. Outside, headlights sweep past the frosted glass, then disappear. The storm thickens. The wind presses against the building with a low, constant hum. Rex shifts his weight slightly, a quiet signal. Marcus answers with a soft heel tap against the table leg, a reminder to remain still. The dog obeys instantly, breath steady, gaze forward. Control is not forced. It is mutual trust built over years of repetition. At the counter, a parent reaches for a child's shoulder and gently pulls the boy closer, positioning him behind an arm as if shielding him from something that has not happened yet. The child looks confused. The parent looks toward the door. Marcus follows that gaze, not with urgency, but with the slow awareness of someone who has learned that danger rarely announces itself loudly. The diner is warm. The coffee is hot, the dog is calm, yet the air carries a tension that does not belong to a simple disagreement over a service animal. He realizes the unease was already here before he stepped inside. The dog did not bring the fear with him. He walked into it. The first joke is quiet enough to pretend it was not meant for him. A muttered line about tough guy uniforms and weekend warriors. Marcus keeps his gaze on the steam rising from his cup. Rex remains beneath the table, chin resting lightly on his paws, breathing slow and even. The second joke is louder, followed by a short laugh that carries across the room. A third voice joins in, and suddenly the tone shifts from uneasy silence to something sharper, more performative. A group near the window leans back in their chairs, speaking just loud enough to be heard without directly addressing him. Nice costume. Bet the dog got his badge online. Their words are not clever. They are bait. Phones appear again, lifted higher this time, lenses pointed openly. One teenager circles slightly to get a better angle, framing Marcus and Rex together like a spectacle rather than people. The flashes of screens reflect in chrome napkin holders and polished sugar dispensers, turning the booth into a small stage. Rex does not react to snapping fingers inches from the table edge. He does not lift his head when someone whistles softly. His discipline becomes its own kind of statement, more powerful than any response Marcus could give. Marcus lowers his hand slightly and murmurs a gentle stay, the word barely audible. The dog's ears flick once in acknowledgement, then settle again. Control is not tension. It is patience refined into instinct. Marcus swallows the urge to look up. Pride rises like heat in his chest, but he presses it down, letting it pass. He has learned that attention can be a weapon when others are desperate to provoke a reaction. He focuses instead on details that do not lie. Reflections in the curved surface of the coffee pot. Movement near the counter. The rhythm of the room. Most people film for amusement or outrage. Their expressions exaggerated, their commentary loud. One man near the back, however, holds his phone differently. No grin, no commentary. His camera is steady, angled low, documenting rather than mocking. He adjusts position only when someone blocks his view. That is not curiosity. That is intent. The deputy near the entrance steps closer, voice firm but not aggressive. He mentions local ordinances, potential fines, the inconvenience Marcus is causing. The words are official, but the tone carries social pressure more than legal certainty. Conversations around the diner grow louder in response, people emboldened by the uniform's presence. A woman near the counter shakes her head dramatically. Someone suggests calling animal control. Another voice says the video is already online. Humiliation becomes a shared activity, a public performance fed by glowing screens. Marcus shifts slightly, and for a brief second the inside of his jacket catches the overhead light. In the curved reflection of a chrome syrup dispenser, a small metallic badge clipped to the lining flashes and disappears. No one seems to notice directly, but the man documenting in the back pauses, zooms slightly, then steadies his phone again. Marcus does not react. He lifts his cup, takes a slow sip, and sets it down with deliberate calm. The storm outside slams a loose sign against the building with a sudden metallic crack. The entire diner flinches, chairs scrape. A few phones dip instinctively. Rex does not move, not a twitch. His breathing remains steady, eyes open, posture unchanged. The contrast is impossible to ignore. Conversations falter mid-sentence. For a moment, the mockery loses its rhythm, replaced by a quiet confusion. The room realizes the loudest presence at that table is not the man being filmed. It is the silence of a dog who refuses to be provoked. The manager approaches with a smile that does not reach his eyes. The towel in his hands is folded and unfolded again as if it needs constant straightening. His voice is polite, almost apologetic, but the request is firm. There is a booth in the back corner, he says. More space. Fewer complaints. It will make everyone more comfortable. He does not say whose comfort matters most. He does not need to. Marcus looks up slowly, meeting the manager's gaze for just a second, long enough to read the tension behind it. He nods once, calm, cooperative. The exact response expected. He rises without haste. Rex slides out from under the table at a soft heel command, stepping into position beside Marcus's left leg, shoulder aligned perfectly. The movement is smooth, controlled, almost invisible in its precision. Conversations pause as they pass. Phones track them like searchlights. The back corner booth is half hidden behind a decorative divider, close to a narrow side exit with a push bar dulled by years of use. Marcus sits with the same casual motion as before, but his eyes take inventory instantly. The exit is unlocked. The hallway beyond it is dim. A stack of delivery crates sits against the wall, forming a blind spot. He notes the distance to the kitchen door, the angle of the ceiling lights, the faint hum of a refrigerator unit somewhere behind the wall. Rex responds to a quiet place command and folds neatly beneath the booth, body angled so he can see both Marcus and the aisle. His tail lies still. His ears remain alert. Discipline is not stiffness. It is readiness without tension. Marcus rests his boots lightly on the edge of the seat opposite him. Posture relaxed enough to avoid attention, controlled enough to maintain awareness. Across the room, the deputy steps outside, speaking into his radio, the door swinging shut behind him. The sudden absence of uniformed presence shifts the atmosphere. Conversations grow louder again, but the tone changes. Without the badge nearby, the mockery returns with less restraint and more confidence. Hostile glances replace whispers. A few customers lean in their seats to keep Marcus in view, as if his relocation has made him easier to study rather than easier to ignore. Marcus lets his gaze drift upward, following the line of the ceiling until it meets a security camera mounted near the corner. The lens is pointed slightly off-center, angled toward a blank section of wall instead of the entrance or the counter. It is not broken. The small red light is steady. It is simply looking in the wrong direction. That detail settles into his mind like a misplaced puzzle piece. He leans forward and bends to adjust his bootless, movement slow and unremarkable. His shoulder brushes the edge of the booth, and his fingers lightly nudge the decorative divider. The divider shifts a fraction, just enough to change the camera's line of sight by a narrow degree. The adjustment is casual, easily mistaken for someone making room for their foot. The lens now captures a slice of the aisle and part of the counter. Marcus straightens, expression unchanged, hands returning to the table. The action is invisible to most. To a recording later, it will matter. Rex's breathing remains steady, but his ears twitch once toward the side exit. Marcus taps the floor lightly with his heel, a reassurance. The dog settles again, eyes forward, patience unbroken. The room continues to watch, but now the watching feels different. Not entertainment. Surveillance. Outside the frosted window near the exit, headlights cut through the swirling snow and stop. An engine remains running low and constant, a vibration felt more than heard. No one inside acknowledges it at first. Marcus does not turn his head. He simply notes the reflection of those lights in the chrome edge of a nearby condiment tray. The vehicle does not park and power down, it waits. The isolation is complete now. The corner booth, the partial divider, the deputy outside, the engine idling beyond the glass. Marcus rests his hands loosely around his cup, calm on the surface, calculating beneath it. Rex remains perfectly still under the table, a quiet presence in a tightening space. Through the thin wall, the engine continues to hum, steady and patient, like it knows exactly where they are sitting. The manager returns with a printed sheet held too stiffly to be casual. The paper is clean, uncreased, the ink bold, as if it was prepared long before tonight. He clears his throat and places it on the edge of the table without fully sliding it toward Marcus. Corporate policy, he says. Animals are not permitted unless certified. Liability issues. Health inspections. The words are rehearsed, delivered in a tone that aims for authority, but lands somewhere between nervous and defensive. He does not look at Rex when he speaks. He looks at the surrounding customers, measuring their approval. Marcus glances at the page for less than a second. He does not reach for it. His expression stays neutral, but a small tension settles in his jaw. He knows the rhythm of this exchange. Policy becomes a shield when courage is lacking. He lifts his cup, takes a slow sip, and sets it down with the same deliberate calm he has maintained since walking in. The manager waits for a reaction that never comes. 2 booths away, a man raises his phone and dials with exaggerated gestures. He speaks loudly enough for the entire diner to hear. Animal control. Yes, right now. Big dog, unsafe environment. His volume is theatrical, his pacing dramatic. A few people nod as if the call itself is proof of wrongdoing. The sound of his voice fills the space, blending with the rising wind outside that whistles through the doorframe each time it opens. Snow streaks across the windows now, the storm thickening into a gray blur that erases the street beyond the glass. A stranger steps closer to Marcus's booth, leaning in with a hand extended too far, fingers reaching toward Rex's muzzle without permission. The dog's head lifts slightly, a low rumble rolling from his chest. It is not loud, not aggressive, just a warning shaped by instinct and training. The stranger freezes, surprise flashing across his face. Marcus's voice follows immediately, quiet and firm. Leave it. The command is soft but absolute. Rex's rumble stops mid-breath. His head lowers again, posture returning to stillness, as if the sound never happened. The restraint is visible. So is the effort behind it. Marcus's hands tighten briefly around his cup before relaxing. Frustration flickers across his features, gone almost as quickly as it appears. He does not raise his voice. He does not stand. He chooses control again, and the choice costs him more each time. Around him, the social pressure continues to build, fueled by murmurs, nods, and the glow of recording screens. The wind outside intensifies, rattling the loose sign against the building in uneven bursts. Visibility through the front windows drops until the world beyond becomes a shifting wall of white. Headlights appear and vanish within seconds. The idling engine near the side exit continues its steady hum, now partially masked by the storm but still present, still waiting. Inside, the air feels thinner, conversations sharper, patience shorter. The manager straightens the printed policy again, tapping it lightly with one finger as if the gesture adds weight. He repeats the threat of removal, this time less polite, more insistent. A few customers lean forward, expecting escalation, craving it. Marcus remains seated, gaze steady, silence becoming its own answer. Rex does not move. The discipline between them forms a quiet boundary that no one has successfully crossed. The front door swings open with a gust of snow and cold air. The deputy steps back inside, shoulders dusted white, radio clipped high on his vest. Behind him, two more officers enter, boots heavy on the tile, eyes scanning the room before settling on Marcus and the dog in the corner booth. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Phones lift higher. The storm outside howls against the windows, but inside, the pressure shifts from social to official in a single breath. The two additional officers spread out without speaking, boots thudding softly against the tile as they position themselves near the counter and the front windows. Their presence shifts the balance of the room again. Some customers relax, believing authority has finally taken control. Others grow quieter, eyes darting between Marcus and the uniforms as if waiting for a verdict that has not yet been spoken. Near the back wall, the man who has been filming since the first jokes does not lower his phone. He adjusts his stance slightly, keeping Marcus, the officers, and the manager all within the same frame. His expression is focused, almost clinical. No smirk, no whispered commentary, no attempt to provoke. Marcus catches the reflection of the phone's screen in the chrome edge of the napkin dispenser and notices the difference. The recording interface is set to continuous capture, timestamp visible, audio level steady. This is not entertainment. It is documentation. One of the officers leans toward the deputy and murmurs something too quiet for most of the room to hear. Marcus watches their posture instead of their lips. A brief nod, a glance toward him, then a subtle shift in stance that signals recognition rather than suspicion. The deputy pulls a small notepad from his pocket and flips it open, scanning a line as if confirming a detail already known. Marcus does not reach for his jacket. He does not present anything. He simply lets the moment unfold. The hidden truth surfaces in fragments. A name spoken softly between officers. A reference to an internal bulletin that circulated earlier in the day. Marcus Hale. Advisory status. Cooperation expected, not confrontation. The officer's body language loosens slightly, shoulders dropping a fraction. They are not here to remove him. They are here because something about his presence triggered attention higher up the chain. Across the diner, the group that had been mocking him misreads the shift entirely. They see more uniforms and assume reinforcement. Confidence returns to their posture. One man folds his arms with a satisfied grin, whispering that the problem is about to be handled. The manager straightens his policy sheet again, emboldened by numbers rather than knowledge. For a brief stretch of seconds, the antagonists feel stronger, convinced that authority stands firmly on their side. Marcus feels the realization settle in his chest like a weight. This was never spontaneous. The jokes, the phones, the policy sheet prepared too quickly. The deputy lingering instead of acting. It was coordinated social pressure, not random discomfort. A test designed to provoke a reaction that could be recorded, clipped, and misrepresented. The understanding does not bring anger. It brings clarity. His breathing slows. His hands rest loosely on the table. Discipline becomes intention rather than defense. The man filming in the back lowers his phone just enough to meet Marcus's eyes for the first time. There is no smile, only a small nod, almost imperceptible. Confirmation without words. Evidence is being preserved, not manufactured. Marcus returns the nod with the slightest tilt of his chin. A silent agreement forms in the space between strangers. Outside, the storm presses harder against the windows, wind dragging snow across the glass in restless streaks. Inside, the tension changes shape again, less chaotic, more focused. Conversations restart in hushed tones. The officers reposition subtly, no longer surrounding Marcus but widening their view of the entire room. The balance is shifting, though not everyone recognizes it yet. Under the booth, Rex's ears lift sharply. His head turns toward the kitchen door, muscles tightening for the first time since they entered. Marcus does not look immediately. He feels the change through the leash resting lightly against his leg, through the quiet alertness that travels from dog to handler without sound. Then he follows Rex's gaze. The swinging kitchen door moves once, just a fraction, then stills. A shadow passes behind the narrow window cut into the top panel, gone too quickly to identify. The hum of the idling engine outside continues, steady and patient. Rex's posture remains controlled, but his focus has locked onto that door as if something on the other side has finally decided to move. The deputy steps forward at last, the notepad closing with a soft snap. His tone is firm now, no longer hovering in uncertainty. Identification, sir. The request is direct, official, and loud enough for nearby phones to capture clearly. The two additional officers angle their bodies slightly, forming a loose triangle that narrows Marcus's space without fully surrounding him. It is not aggression. It is procedure shaped by optics. Marcus's hand moves toward his jacket, then pauses. The hesitation lasts less than a second, but it is visible. Not fear, calculation. He measures the room again, the angles, the eyes, the recording devices waiting for a gesture to interpret. Under the table, Rex shifts his weight, a quiet signal traveling up the leash like a pulse. His posture changes from relaxed watch to ready alert, muscles tightening without a sound. Marcus lowers his hand, letting the moment breathe. The pause draws attention, and attention is dangerous when misused. The kitchen door swings open suddenly, pushed too hard from the inside. A waitress carrying a stack of plates steps backward at the wrong moment, her heel sliding on melted snow near the divider. The door arcs toward her shoulder with enough force to send dishes flying. Rex moves before Marcus speaks, not lunging, not barking. He rises in a single smooth motion and places his body between the door and the waitress, absorbing the impact with his side. The plates wobble but do not fall. The waitress steadies herself against the counter, eyes wide, breath caught in her throat. Marcus's voice follows a fraction later, calm and precise. Easy. Rex steps back immediately, returning to a controlled stand beside the booth, tail low, ears forward. No spectacle, no aggression. Just intervention shaped by training. A few phones dip, unsure how to frame what just happened. The waitress murmurs a quiet thank you that is almost lost in the noise, but Marcus hears it. He nods once, attention already shifting back to the officers. Near the counter, one of the men who had been mocking earlier rises too quickly, bumping his chair. Something slips from his jacket pocket and skids across the tile, stopping near Marcus's boot. A wallet. He reaches for it with forced casualness, but the movement is clumsy. Marcus bends slightly, picks it up, and hands it back without opening it. As the leather folds, a plastic badge flashes inside, clipped crookedly behind a transparent sleeve. The emblem is wrong, the lettering uneven, not official. The man's fingers close around the wallet too fast, gratitude absent, eyes darting toward the officers before he retreats to his seat. The detail settles into Marcus's mind like another misplaced piece finding its edge. The deputy repeats the request for identification, this time with less patience. The room grows quiet again, tension tightening like a wire. Marcus finally reaches into his jacket, slow and deliberate, making sure every movement is visible. He draws out a worn leather holder but does not open it yet. His gaze shifts briefly to the waitress he just helped, then back to the deputy. Protection without hostility. Control without submission. The choice is deliberate. Under the booth, Rex lowers into a partial sit, still alert, eyes tracking the room's edges. The storm outside rattles the windows in uneven bursts, wind pressing against the glass as if trying to force its way in. The idling engine beyond the side exit continues its steady hum, unchanged, patient. Inside, the air feels compressed, every breath measured. One of the additional officers steps closer than necessary, hand extending toward Rex's leash without asking, fingers reaching as if the dog were equipment rather than a partner. The motion is quick, presumptive, and wrong. Rex's ears lift sharply, body still, eyes locking onto the unfamiliar hand. Marcus's grip tightens slightly on the leather holder, his voice not yet spoken. The leash trembles once as the officer's fingers close around it. The officer's hand tightens around the leash, pulling it upward with a short, unnecessary jerk. The motion is small but disrespectful, the kind of gesture that treats a trained partner like loose property. Rex does not resist. He simply stiffens, muscles locking in quiet readiness. Marcus's eyes lift slowly, meeting the officer's gaze without raising his voice. The leather identification holder remains closed in his hand, forgotten for the moment. Respect has shifted from request to test. Across the aisle, the man with the crooked badge inside his wallet stands again, emboldened by the uniform's proximity. He steps closer than anyone else has dared, his grin thin, confidence borrowed from borrowed authority. His hand reaches down, fingers brushing Rex's collar as if proving a point. The contact is casual to him, invasive to the dog. Rex's head turns sharply, not snapping, not barking, just aligning his gaze with the intrusion. The air in the diner tightens like a pulled wire. Marcus moves at last. Not forward in anger, not backward in retreat. He stands with a single controlled motion, chair sliding back with a muted scrape. His voice is calm but carries across the room with unmistakable clarity. Protect. The word is soft, precise, shaped by years of repetition rather than volume. Rex steps instantly between Marcus and the man, body angled sideways, creating a barrier without touching either of them. Tail low, ears forward, eyes steady. No growl, no lunge, just presence. The message is clear: this space is no longer open. The man's grin falters. He withdraws his hand a fraction too slowly, trying to mask surprise with irritation. Around them, phones lift higher, lenses hungry for escalation that does not come. The officer still holding the leash hesitates, uncertain whether to tighten his grip or release it. The uncertainty is visible, and uncertainty erodes borrowed confidence faster than confrontation ever could. Marcus's posture is straight now, shoulders squared, expression composed. The decisive moment has arrived, not in violence but in alignment. He is no longer absorbing pressure. He is defining boundaries. His breathing is steady, eyes scanning once more, confirming positions, exits, angles. The storm outside slams another gust of snow against the windows, a dull thud that echoes through the room like distant thunder. Rex remains perfectly controlled, weight balanced on all four paws, creating a living line between Marcus and the aggressor. The discipline is unmistakable. This is not an uncontrolled animal. This is training refined into instinct, obedience sharpened into judgment. The crowd senses it even if they cannot name it. Conversations die mid-whisper. The room's energy shifts from mockery to caution. The deputy steps forward quickly, voice raised for the first time. "Sir, get on the ground." The command cuts through the silence, sharp and official, carrying the authority of procedure rather than context. A few customers gasp. Others lean in, expecting the final spark that will justify the entire spectacle. The officer releases the leash at last, hands moving toward his belt as if rehearsed. Marcus does not flinch. He looks at the deputy, then at Rex, then back again. The identification holder is still in his hand, unopened, its edges worn from years of use. The choice before him is no longer about pride or policy. It is about timing. Around him, cameras glow like small suns, recording every breath, every blink, every inch of space between command and response. Rex holds his position, unmoving, eyes forward, waiting for the next word that will define everything that follows. The storm howls outside, the idling engine near the side exit continues its steady hum, and the entire diner seems to pause in a single suspended moment. The deputy repeats the order, louder this time, and several phones zoom in as Marcus begins to lower one knee toward the tile. Marcus lowers one knee toward the tile, not in surrender but in control of the moment's tempo. The identification holder remains steady in his hand, never dropped, never fumbled. Rex mirrors the movement without command, easing his posture while maintaining the protective angle between Marcus and the nearest aggressor. The deputy's voice hangs in the air, sharp but uncertain now, as if the order has outpaced the confidence behind it. Marcus opens the leather holder slowly, making sure every camera has a clear view. The metallic badge inside catches the overhead light, not with theatrical shine, but with the dull certainty of something well used. Beneath it rests a federal task authorization card, edges worn, signature lines filled, dates current. His voice is calm, unraised, carrying across the room without strain. He states his name, his former Naval Special Operations status, and his present cooperation with a federal investigative unit. No boasting, no flourish, just facts arranged in the correct order. The officer's posture changes almost immediately. Shoulders loosen, hands drift away from belts. The deputy steps closer, eyes scanning the credentials with a professional focus that replaces earlier tension. He recognizes the formatting, the seals, the authenticity that cannot be faked with cheap plastic. The additional officers exchange brief glances that communicate understanding without words. The command to get on the ground dissolves into procedural quiet. Near the counter, the man who had been documenting intimidation lowers his phone slightly, then lifts it again, now capturing the reversal. The earlier mockers shift in their seats, expressions tightening as confidence drains from borrowed authority. The manager folds the printed policy sheet in half, then again, the paper shrinking with each crease until it disappears into his apron pocket. Marcus closes the holder and returns it to his jacket. He does not gloat, he does not lecture. He simply gives Rex a quiet command. Search. The word is soft, but the dog moves with immediate clarity, stepping away from the booth and heading toward the side exit. The officers watch, alert but no longer adversarial. The deputy pushes the door open, letting a burst of snow and cold air flood the threshold as Rex slips outside with controlled purpose. The suspicious vehicle still idles, exhaust curling into the storm. Rex circles once, nose low, tail steady, then pauses at the rear quarter panel. He sits, a precise trained signal rather than a bark or scratch. The meaning is unmistakable. The deputy approaches, peers through the frosted window, and signals to the other officers. A trunk release clicks. Inside, beneath a blanket and a tool kit, lie sealed packages and equipment that do not belong to a casual diner stop. Nothing dramatic, nothing explosive, just enough contraband to turn suspicion into certainty. Witnesses gather near the doorway, their earlier phones now recording evidence rather than spectacle. The documenting man steps closer, offering his footage to the deputy without hesitation. The waitress who had nearly been struck by the kitchen door nods when asked what happened earlier, her voice steadier now that the room's energy has shifted. Small truths align, forming a larger picture without anyone raising their voice. Additional vehicles arrive, lights cutting through the snowfall. Not sirens, not chaos. Just proper authorities responding to internal alerts and cross-checked bulletins that had been quietly circulating since before Marcus entered the diner. The handoffs are procedural, efficient, almost subdued. The antagonists who once leaned forward with confidence now sit back, faces pale, words gone. The man with the fake badge is asked to stand, his wallet examined under brighter light, the plastic emblem losing its borrowed authority in seconds. Inside the diner, the storm's howl becomes background again. Conversations restart in softer tones, no longer fueled by mockery but by realization. The deputy returns from the doorway, snow melting on his shoulders, expression measured. He approaches Marcus with deliberate steps, stopping at a respectful distance. His voice is clear enough for the room to hear. He apologizes publicly for the earlier command and for the handling of the leash. The words are simple, direct, unembellished. Respect restored through acknowledgement rather than excuse. Marcus accepts the apology with a nod, nothing more. Rex returns to his side at a quiet heel command, posture relaxed at last. The dog's tail gives a single slow sweep before settling. Cameras lower. The crowd that once demanded removal now watches in silence, the weight of the reversal settling over them like the snow outside. No cheering follows, no dramatic speeches. Just a collective stillness as people adjust their understanding of what they witnessed. Consequences unfold calmly, names taken, statements logged, evidence secured. The manager brings a fresh cup of coffee without being asked, placing it on the table with both hands, eyes steady this time. The respect moment is not loud. It is the absence of noise. The diner, once filled with provocation and performance, becomes quiet enough to hear the wind against the windows and the soft jingle of Rex's collar as he sits. In that quiet, authority is no longer borrowed, and discipline no longer questioned. The storm outside begins to soften, not stopping, just losing its sharp edge. Snow still moves across the windows, but the wind no longer slams against the glass with the same urgency. Inside the diner, the tension that once filled every corner drains away slowly, like heat leaving a room after a long argument. Marcus sits again in the corner booth, posture finally relaxed, shoulders no longer squared for defense. Rex rests at his feet, body stretched along the tile, head angled toward the aisle out of habit rather than necessity. His breathing is deep and even, the steady rhythm of a job finished well. A waitress approaches with a fresh plate and a refill of coffee. This time her hands do not tremble. She sets the cup down carefully, meeting Marcus's eyes with a small, genuine smile. No forced cheer, no hesitation. Just simple courtesy returning to its natural place. The manager follows a moment later with a quiet apology and a discount that Marcus does not ask for and does not comment on. The gesture is less about money and more about restoring balance. Respect offered without being demanded. Near the entrance, the suspicious group is escorted outside one by one, coats pulled tight against the cold. There is no shouting, no spectacle. Just quiet compliance under the steady presence of proper authority. The man with the fake badge keeps his gaze on the floor as he passes. The documenting witness speaks calmly with an officer, transferring files, his earlier footage now part of an official record rather than a social performance. Loose ends tie themselves through small, procedural motions rather than dramatic declarations. Marcus eats slowly, the simple meal tasting warmer than expected. He breaks a small piece of toast and lowers it discreetly. Rex accepts it gently, lips careful, training never abandoned even in reward. The dog's tail taps the floor once, then stills. Around them, conversations resume in normal tones. Silverware clinks, chairs shift. The diner returns to being a diner instead of a stage. The deputy pauses near their booth before leaving, offering one last nod that carries more meaning than his earlier apology alone. It is acknowledgement without hierarchy. Respect given as an equal rather than a concession. Marcus returns the nod, nothing more needed. The storm warning on the television changes to an advisory. The urgent red banner fading to a calmer shade. Outside, the idling engine that once hummed with suspicion is gone, replaced by the quiet sweep of plows clearing the road. Rex lifts his head once more, scanning the room out of instinct, then lowers it again, eyes half closed. Marcus finishes his coffee, feeling the weight of the evening settle into memory rather than tension. The world did not change. The storm did not stop because of them. But within these walls, fear lost its grip for a few hours, replaced by something steadier. They stand to leave without announcement. No one films, no one whispers. The door opens, letting in a gentler gust of winter air. Snow falls in softer flakes now, drifting instead of striking. Marcus adjusts his jacket, gives a quiet heel command, and Rex rises smoothly at his side. They step back into the night not as heroes and not as victims, just as two partners moving forward with the same discipline that carried them through the door. Strength is not proven by how loudly you react, but by how firmly you refuse to become what fear expects.